There is a fire, a passion, and a drive deep within ourselves that is about to explode, to help us finally change our lives for the better since 2020 and confront anything in the way holding us back once and for all. But first, at this new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Aries, we need just a little more time to rest, gather strength, and get our heart in the right place before we hit the ground running. Hi, I'm your astrologer, Brittany of Ethereal Astrology, helping you to see the larger story of your life. Today, you're watching your astrology horoscope for the new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Aries, which occurs on Saturday, March 29th, 2025 at 6:57 a.m. Eastern Time or 3:57 a.m. Pacific Time. Now, let's go ahead and let's hop right into it. In order to get started, what I like to take a look at first is going to be by placing on the chart what it is that we're referring to and I'm talking about in this video so that you can see it and follow along with me. So let me do that now. This chart is for the new moon solar eclipse in Aries, which occurs on Saturday, March 29th. I know that because I've got both the sun and the moon here in the sign of Aries at the same degree here. And when you get the moon and the sun at the same degree of the same sign here, that is a new moon. I also know that it is an eclipse because it is fairly close to the nodal axis. Over here, the north node, we've got 27 degrees Pisces. So the nodal axis is less than 10 degrees away from this new moon, which does make it an eclipse. Of course, it's a solar eclipse because that's what it's called when you have a new moon there. Okay, what is this all about? Well, a few things here. New moons are about new beginnings, new energy, and fresh starts because they are the beginning of a new lunar month or of a new lunar cycle. Not only that, but this is a solar eclipse here. Solar eclipses superpower the new moons here and the new beginning that it is and makes it an extra big or a super significant new beginning, new energy or fresh start that it is that we are getting. Okay, now in what area of our life or what themes are we getting this super significant or bigger boost, fresh energy, and new start in? Well, that's going to be the sign of Aries because, of course, that's where this new moon solar eclipse is. Okay, what is Aries about? Well, one thing I'll note about Aries is that Aries is the first sign of the zodiac here. It's the first sign of the zodiac because it is the first sign of spring in the northern hemisphere and starts at the spring equinox. And because Aries is the first sign, to me, it also has to do with new beginnings, fresh starts, or doing new things or trying new things, trying to do old things in new ways. Here, that's coming up. So this to me now brings three symbols that I would see converging all at once: the new moon, the solar eclipse, the eclipse here, and Aries, that have to do with new beginnings, big fresh starts to either do something new, do something we haven't done before, or do something we were doing in a new and different way that, again, I ideally think is meant to be better for us. Okay. What else do I want to note here? Aries is a fire sign. Well, maybe I'll start with that. Fire signs do tend to be more passionate, more excitable, and more lively. And usually that does accompany new beginnings. When you're doing something new for the first time, there does tend to be some excitement around it here, around what you're doing or around what you're experiencing here too. So not only are we getting just a significant fresh start to kind of do things differently, here, try new things, but we're also getting more of the passion, more of the fire, maybe even more of the energy here in order to do these new things here that's going on. And not only that, but Aries is also a sign of courage. Maybe I'll say that here as well. That's going on, and of getting more of our courage and our strength up within ourselves, especially because doing something new or something you haven't done before does take a lot of courage and a lot of inner strength in order to make happen. And not only that, but other things I'll note about Aries is that Aries is correlated to the planet of Mars. Mars is a lot about action and a lot about doing things. So that's another thing that I think we're getting a big boost here, a significant boost to do or to do in a new way, right? Not only to start something new with more courage and more strength and more passion here, but to actually act on our lives, maybe even on these new things in very different ways than we have before. Okay? How might we be acting, behaving in different ways than before? Well, that also to me goes back to the Aries. Aries to me has a lot to do with our instincts and with our impulses here as well. Being again a Mars ruled sign. It's not ruled by Mercury, the mind. It's not ruled by Saturn, responsibility. Aries is ruled by Mars. It's about our instincts and impulses. So one of the new ways of acting, of doing things that we're getting here is where we follow more of our instincts and more of our impulses over our logical mind, over what we think we should do or how things should be done, or more of a responsible approach there. Hey, not only that, but again, I want to connect back to Aries having a lot to do with passion and with being a Mars ruled sign. And to me, when you're passionate about something, a lot of times you do it in an easier way, you do it in an easier way, you do it in a simpler way, you do it in a way that feels more fun, especially if you've never done it before and you don't quite know what you're doing either. So not only do I think what's going on here at this new moon solar eclipse in Aries is that we're just getting a very significant boost to kind of do new things in our life or start new things here and to get more excitement and courage up in order to do that, but we're also getting a significant boost to behave and act very differently in our lives and to act in ways that aren't based on the logical mind, that aren't based on seriousness and responsibility and what we should do, but really come from a place of passion and excitement and instinct, and from a place of what we enjoy, of what we truly enjoy, or of what's easier and simpler here to us at this time. And not only that, but Aries is also about our identity and kind of like the core of our being and things that are important to us as individuals, not other people, again, what other people think we should do, but what's truly important to ourselves at the core of our being. So I think we're also trying to get, new ways of acting and behaving that are not only more instinctual and more easy and come from more of a place of heart and of passion over responsibility or our logical mind. But I think we're also trying to act in ways that are truly going to really benefit ourselves as individuals and be a true reflection of our identity and of kind of our inner world and of who we are at our core. That's going on at this time. Hey, not only that, but maybe another thing that I should note as well is that Aries to me does tend to be a sign that does indicate a quicker pace to things getting a little bit faster because again, it's a Mars ruled sign. Mars likes to go, being, a planet of action. So this could also indicate too, things starting to pick up the pace a little bit in your life here soon to really get moving here or to kind of take on a new form than perhaps they were before. Okay, and I think that's all the main themes that I want to emphasize for now about this new moon solar eclipse in Aries. Okay, big, significant beginning here to start new things, to get the courage and the passion to do so, and to behave in different ways that will eventually be conducive to making these new things happen, and behave in different ways that are more instinctual, more aligned with our identity and who we are, easier, simpler, maybe even quicker here in a lot of ways, and that come more from our heart instead of a place of overthinking, logic, or responsibility and obligation here at this time. Okay, now before I move forward in time to explain more of the specifics about this new moon solar eclipse in Aries and how it might play out, what I like to do if you've been watching me for a while is go back in time here for a bit before I go forward. And I like to go back in time here to give you more of the context of how we got here and of why these themes are now coming up to be lived and experienced, because I think the context can actually change the interpretation quite a bit, since we have a new moon in every sign every year, and there's any eclipses every year, even though those are in different signs. So I think it's the context that really makes a difference. It does get kind of long. So if you want to watch that please do so. But if you don't, I put timestamps down below in the description box so that you can easily navigate ahead in the video to when we get into more of the specific details about this new moon itself. But I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hop into the context. So let me do that. To start with the context, I like to go all the way back still to January to April of 2020, because that was when we had a very rare and difficult astrological alignment, which came exact around the middle to late degrees of Capricorn right here. And that was Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, and the South Node coming conjunct. Hey, that's a very rare alignment because Saturn and Pluto only come conjunct about every 35 years on average, and not always with the South Node and Jupiter there. That made it even more rare. This was also a very difficult alignment because Saturn and Pluto are considered malefic planets by the ancient astrologers, meaning they tend to manifest in a little bit more of a challenging way. Also, too, because Jupiter was there in Capricorn, a sign it does not like to be in, and the South Node was there as well, which also does tend to manifest in a more challenging type of way. So this was some kind of significant rare difficulty. What was that rare challenge that occurred at the beginning of 2020? Well, I think what happened is that we started to feel stuck, right? Saturn is involved. Saturn is a lot about feeling stuck here, about the direction our life is going in. Capricorn, that's what Capricorn's about. And stuck and unhappy, I might say, with the direction our life has been going in for possibly the past 35 years before that point, right? Because that's how long it takes this alignment to occur here. Like either we did not like anything about our lives from the past 35 years or liked it, but had just simply outgrown it after so many years had passed, where it no longer resonated with us anymore. Not only did that indicate us feeling very stuck and kind of unhappy with our life, but it was also about us realizing that we needed to make big Jupiter, a very big planet, change. Pluto involved permanent change to really end, especially with the South Node there, those things about our life that we did not like, that had been going on for a while. That again, it's hard to make changes when you've been doing something for so long here, and to make these endings, especially with people, money, places, and things that were important to you. So that's, to me, what happened the beginning of 2020. My life, I don't really like the way it's been going for a while. I now need to make a big, scary change to really end a lot of things I don't like in order to move on. And we started doing that. That then leads me on the next alignment that I want to mention now. Fast forward 2 years later, going to be April of 2022. Around April of 2022, we had a new moon solar eclipse here on the North Node in the sign of Taurus, somewhere around here. This to me was a positive thing. I want to say a positive thing because it was on the North Node, which I tend to interpret more positively since the North Node is a lot about our purpose and destiny at this time. Okay, what was the good thing going on? Well, new moons are about new beginnings. North Node is about our purpose and destiny at this time. Taurus is also a sign of spring. It's about fertility. It's about abundance. It's about things being more able to really grow and bloom here. That was going on, and us feeling a little more secure, since Taurus is also about stability and security. So I think what happened in April 2022 is that we felt like we had ended enough things in the years prior that we did not like in our lives, that we were now in a little bit more of a stable and fertile place from which to grow after this point, or create a new life and a different life that we might like a little bit better than what we had before. That then leads me now to the next alignment I want to mention, which happened about 2 weeks, so very short after that. Also around the same month, roughly April of 2022. At that time, we had a full moon, a lunar eclipse in the opposite sign here of Scorpio on the South Node. Now, that to me was a little bit more of a challenge. That to me was a bit of a challenge because it was occurring on the South Node, which is more difficult than the North Node, in my opinion. And also, too, because the moon was in Scorpio, a sign it does not like to be in, and therefore doesn't function that well in. What was the difficulty there? Well, full moons in a lot of ways are about endings, especially with the South Node being there. The South Node is about things that we're stuck in, that are no longer helpful for us, that we need to let go of. And it's hard to let go of things that you're stuck in or that you've just been doing for a long time and have been very comfortable with. So that was hard. We've got some habits here we've been doing that are no longer working for us. We need to let go of. What were some of those habits that we needed to let go of that weren't working for us? Well, those are Scorpio habits. Again, not because Scorpio is a bad sign, just because the South Node was there at the time and the moon was there as well, where it doesn't like to be. Hey, Scorpio, when negative, can bring what? Well, Scorpio correlates to Pluto, which was in that hard alignment in 2020, which can be a lot about endings or changing things that's going on. So one of the things that we're stuck in that's not helpful, especially to building a new life, is endings. We were stuck in making too many endings, making too many changes here that's going on from the way that our life has been, right? And if we continue to tear things down, we're not going to be able to create something new. So we needed to get rid of this tendency to have to constantly end things and make changes. Not only that, but Scorpio as well is a water sign. It has a lot to do with our emotions. And particularly, again, especially with the South Node, there are negative emotions like trauma, perhaps as well. So there may also have been a lot of negative emotions and trauma from the past few years, especially 2020, of ending all of those things, that it totally is understandable that we would feel, but that does not help us to build something new if we were to indulge in those feelings. Because if we keep indulging in the negative feelings, they're gonna taint the new here and not help us, may recreate the old we're trying to escape. So we kind of needed to get a little bit of a better handle on some of our challenging emotions from the past few years so that didn't get in the way. Not only that, but Scorpio as well, when negative, again, it's a money sign, can be about debt here that's going on. So there may also have been some debt that we may have accrued, especially since 2020, as we were ending things, relationships, businesses, jobs, all of that may have also piled up as well. That was hard, because it's hard to build something new when you don't have the money for it or when you're in debt. So we also needed to kind of get our debt and our financial situation in a little bit of a better order as well here that was going on, and not be spending or losing so much money. In addition to that, Scorpio is also a relationship sign. And again, when negative can indicate being a little too intertwined with relationships, especially relationships that are maybe a little unhealthy and all of that, we may have still been a little too intertwined with those. And we also needed to separate a little bit more from some of these challenging relationships, or just relationships that weren't aligned with us as well, so that we can move forward. Because again, it's hard to build a new experience if you've got these people that don't understand and are trying to bring you down. So we needed to get a little bit of a handle on that. And if I can be honest with you, I think that took us a while. That took us almost an entire year to get that in order. The money, the relationships, the change, the emotions. Here, it really wasn't until the following year that I think we started to do a little bit better with that, here around April of 2023. Okay, in April of 2023, we had a few significant things happen around the same time. We had Pluto leave Capricorn briefly to enter the sign of Aquarius. We also had Saturn leave Aquarius to enter the sign of Pisces. And we also had a new moon solar eclipse in Aries here at the very last degree of the sign. Okay, all of those things to me can also indicate new beginnings and new chapter changes here. That's because when planets change signs out of one and into another, they tend to bring with it a very different experience, right? We're in a new sign, new experience. Not only that, but there was an eclipse, which is about new beginnings, a solar eclipse in the sign of Aries, the first sign of the zodiac, about new starts as well. So I think what happened in April of 2023 is that we finally adjusted our relationships and our money and our emotions and some of our habits enough as to where we felt like we could try again for the second time, I might say, since April 2022, to manifest a new and better life for ourselves away from these things that we didn't like before. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention. Maybe about now a month later? Yeah, a month or two later, May, I'll say, of 2023, we then had another alignment occur. It was Venus went retrograde here in the sign of Leo. Hey, this was a little bit of a challenge because it's a planet here appearing to move backwards in the sky, which is not its natural direction and which is not forward movement. Here, especially a personal planet, which sometimes we tend to feel more personally here. So this was a bit of a challenge. In what way was this a challenge? Again, Venus was appearing to move backwards in the sky. So this was us feeling stuck again, feeling like we're not able to move forward yet again into this new beginning that we were just hoping we could move into here at that time. Okay, why is it that we were stuck? Well, that to me is a Leo thing because that's where Venus was retrograde. And if we were doing Leo great, it wouldn't need to go retrograde there. So there was something with the Leo that we weren't fully tapping into. What is that about? Well, Leo is a lot about happiness. It's a lot about joy. It's a lot about pleasure. Here as well, and kind of having fun in life. And I don't think we were really tapping into that, especially I need to note with Pluto retrograding back into Capricorn around that time. And Capricorn can be about serious emergency mode, responsibility here. So I think we were having a problem really understanding what makes us happy, finding our joy, and really loving life again. And we needed to recover that. And that's important because how can we truly be going into a new, different, and better experience of life here if we aren't happy or if we don't, aren't in touch with our heart? So we really kind of needed to get more in touch with that and figure that out. Which I don't really think maybe started to happen until a few months later. The next date I'm going to give you is July of 2023. In July of 2023, Pluto was back in Capricorn and it made a square to the nodal axis, which at that time was the south node was in Libra and the north node was in Aries. Where do I want to write this? July here of 2023. Okay. What was that about? Well, this can also be a symbol of stuckness. I need to know when a planet squares the nodal axis, we tend to have trouble accessing that planet. But not only can it be about that, sometimes when planets square the nodes, it can also indicate a need for a big choice to be made here as well in order to overcome this stuckness. So I think that in July, we felt pressure to make some sort of big choice so that we could honor our heart, right? With that Venus retrograde in Leo and do what we love and do what makes us happy here and get rid of a few things that we didn't like and that we didn't enjoy. And with Pluto there to make a change in order to do that. Not a lot of changes, not hundreds of changes, just maybe one or two significant changes here to get rid of things that weren't making us happy so that we could free ourselves up to do other things we might enjoy. Okay, and then if I can be honest, I think that for us to really make that choice and arrange some things, it took us a few more months. It wasn't until that following year, April of 2024, that I think we finally started to do that. And that was because April is the beginning of the astrological new year because it's Aries season where we are right now. And also too, because there was a significant alignment that occurred in April of 2024, which was Jupiter coming into a conjunction with Uranus here in the sign of Taurus. Okay. What is that all about? Well, conjunctions to me also symbolize new beginnings and fresh starts. Here with where two planets kind of start a new cycle with one another. This is also somewhat of a rare alignment, only happens about every 12 or 13 years. Here, so some kind of rare, I don't know if I want to say rare, but more significant new beginning of sorts. It was also in Taurus about fertility, and abundance here, and Uranus can indicate something unexpected, and Jupiter can also be helpful to give a little bit of a boost. So this could have been us suddenly and unexpectedly getting a little bit of a boost here to try again. What is this? The third time now to move into a new, different, and better experience of life that we've been trying to get to for a while, with a little bit of help to do so, possibly from money, Taurus, with our own sense of self, Taurus, our skills and talents to cultivate new skills and talents here, and with ourself and our appearance. Okay, that then leads me now to a few more alignments, but I'm going to erase my chart because now it's gotten kind of messy in order to tell you those. And these next alignments I'm going to go through are going to be all the new moons of the last astrological year and what I thought those meant. So now we're going to zoom into those. I'm going to start with I'm going to start with the new moon that was June of last year, 2024, right after that Jupiter-Uranus conjunction in Taurus. And in June 2024, we had a new moon here in the sign of Gemini. New moons are about new beginnings and fresh starts. Gemini is about the twins. It's also an air sign about our mind. So I think this was us getting another boost, right, to move into a new, different, and better chapter of life for a third time here, and us having a lot of thoughts and ideas, multiple thoughts and ideas open up to us about now what we could do next in our lives in order to move forward in a new, different, and better way, creating different experiences. That then leads me now to the next new moon a month later, July 2024 here in the sign of Cancer. New moons are new beginnings. Cancer is very concerned about our growth and our foundation in life to make sure that's solid. And I think what happened in July with some things going on is that we realized that, yeah, we got a lot of ideas to pursue next in our lives to make it better, but that we really don't know which of these ideas is the best to us to pursue that will give us the most solid foundation from which to grow there, and that we needed kind of a little more time to figure things out. That then leads me now to the next new moon, which was in August of last year, 2024, here in the next sign over of Leo. Again, new moons are about new beginnings. Leo is about happiness and joy. It's about our heart. It also, too, I needed to note, connected very well with the North Node, which was in Aries at the time. The North Node I tend to like about our purpose, and Aries about action. I also might consider Aries about doing things in a shorter, easier, more instinctual way as well here. And I think what happened in August of last year is that we realized that the idea that we need to choose out of all the ones that are opening up to us that will help us to move the forward the best are the ideas that make us the most happy, that we're the most passionate about, and that are the easiest and simplest to pursue, maybe even the quickest and the shortest here in order to move us forward. Okay, that then leads me now to the next lunar month, September of 2024. We had a new moon in Virgo, while Mercury was also retrograde. I need to note in Virgo and in Leo. What was that about? New moons are about new beginnings. Virgo is a lot about fixing things, improving things here that may be in the way of us moving forward. Also, too, sometimes, especially with the Mercury retrograde there, can be a lot about guilt and shame here, too, that was going on. And so I think what happened in September of last year is that we're starting to realize the best approach to help us move forward is one that's quick, easy, fun, short, but that we had a lot of guilt and shame about doing things fast and easy that we needed to heal or fix or overcome in order for us to move forward, because we felt like letting life be easy was shameful, right? Or guilty, that we needed to work through. And we started to do that. That then leads me now to the next alignment, that new moon that happened about a month later, October, roughly of last year. It was a new moon solar eclipse on the South Node here in Libra. This to me was a bit more challenging because it's on the South Node, which is hard. The South Node is a lot about endings and letting things go and us getting a boost to do that. And Libra is also about overthinking. It's about hesitation. It's about people pleasing and things like that. So I think what we realized in October of last year is not only that we needed to get rid of guilt and shame around letting life be easy and fun, but also around any hesitation or overthinking or people pleasing that was also holding us back as well. That then leads me now to the next lunar month, November of last year, 2024. It was in Scorpio. New moons are new beginnings. Scorpio is a lot about permanent change and transformation. So I think in November of last year, we tried to permanently change to more fully embody these new ideas or this different approach to life in which we do what's happy and easy and fun and simple for us there. That then leads me to the next new moon in December of last year, 2024, and the next sign over of Sagittarius, while Mercury was also retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius as well. What was that about? Well, Sagittarius is a lot about hope and faith that things will work out, especially this new approach that we've been trying to get that's faster, quicker, easier, and shorter here as well, because even though we get a new approach and it doesn't work right away, usually you need to give something more time to work. So this was about us trying to have hope and faith and believe that this new approach will work, even if it wasn't showing results right away, and to try to build that up, because I think that that might have been lacking a little bit there. That then leads me now to the next new moon, which was also, I believe, in December of 2024, but like the very last day, I think, of December of 2024, it was a new moon in the next sign over of Capricorn. New moons are about new beginnings. Capricorn to me is a lot about the past, since it is, it starts the winter, the last season here. So, and it's a lot of, can be attributed to karma and things like that. So this to me in December was about us trying to go back to the past to maybe redo some things here with this different approach, faster, easier, quicker, shorter here, and to tie some of those things up so that we can move on. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment, the next new moon, which was about a month later here, January of 2025, in the next sign over of Aquarius. New moons are about new beginnings. Aquarius is a lot about detaching from things and taking a step back here from them to kind of get a different perspective. And so I think that's what we were trying to do then, right? After getting a new approach the past few months and trying to fix some old things, kind of with this new approach, it was about us trying to take a step back to let it all work out, to let it work itself out in its own way, in its own time, because I don't think it had worked out yet. I don't think we've seen the results of this faster, easier, more heart-based approach come together yet here in the way that we need. And maybe we're even still struggling to embrace it a little. That then leads me now to the next alignment, February of 2025. Last month, we had a new moon here in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is a lot about the past, letting the past go. It's also a lot about healing. It's also a lot about resting and surrendering to the process and things of that sort. And I think kind of resting and surrendering here, again, to give more time for these things from the past maybe to kind of play themselves out and fix themselves, and also to give us more time to really integrate everything that we'd learned from the previous years and from this past year about this new approach to life, that shorter, easier, quicker, more fun, and all of that. Okay, then we get to this new moon now, for which this video is for, March of 2025, here in the sign of Aries, new moon solar eclipse in Aries. And again, new moons, new beginnings, a solar eclipse is going to superpower that. And Aries is about this new approach to life that, to be honest, I think we spent all last year trying to figure out, which is doing things in a way that's quicker, shorter, easier, more heart-based, more instinctual, and that's based less on obligation and on logic and just more on kind of our heart and instinct. Not only is it about that, but I think it's also about us trying again one more time with this new approach now, and this correct approach, I think, to finally kind of fix anything in our life that's not where it needs to be and move forward again. What is this, a fourth time? A fourth time now since 2020 into a new and better experience that we've been trying to get to for a while. Okay. So that's what I'm going to say there. Maybe to repeat that very briefly, we've been trying for a long time since 2020 to end things in our life that we don't like and step into a different and better experience that we do like. It's been really hard for us to do because we've had a lot of things to kind of work through, a lot of emotions, a lot of experiences, a lot of habits to release here, and a lot of perspectives that need to be changed. But I think that we're finally figuring it out. I think we're finally figuring out how to exactly leave the past behind and move forward into a different experience, and what that right approach is, which is to really follow our heart and our instinct, and are trying again now and onwards to move into a new experience of life, which if I can be honest, I think is finally going to work this time, if you ask me. Okay, now let's go more into the specific details of this new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Aries itself. Okay, to do that, I'm going to just place on the chart one more time what it is that we're referring to. Here it is, this new moon in Aries, which is a solar eclipse here. Okay, and again, this new moon solar eclipse in Aries, right? New beginnings, to start something new and to do it in a very different way, which is more in touch with our heart, our passion, our instinct, here with more courage and excitement in order to make it happen. Okay. Here. Okay, what I think I want to look at next now is going to be Mars. I want to look at Mars next here for a few reasons. I think the main reason is because this new moon solar eclipse is in Aries, right? Aries correlates to Mars. So Mars is the ruler of this new moon solar eclipse. So I want to go there first, especially because it's making a significant aspect. We've got Mars here, 22 degrees Cancer, making an exact square at the time of this eclipse to Chiron here in Aries. Hey, what is this? This is actually a very difficult, a pretty difficult alignment, I'll say. This is pretty difficult because you've got Mars here in Cancer, a sign it does not like to be in and therefore does not function that well in. It's also making a square, which is technically considered a hard aspect over here to Chiron. Over here to Chiron, and Chiron also, it just tends to be known as being a bit more difficult and bringing triggers and insecurities. So this to me is a challenging thing. What is the challenging thing about it? Well, again, Mars is what we've been talking about with it ruling this new moon solar eclipse, about action and moving forward. And here it is in Cancer, a sign it doesn't function that well in here, meaning that even though we're starting to get at this eclipse a lot of drive, a lot of courage, a lot of momentum to want to act, to want to do things, especially in a different way that's not based on responsibility or obligation, but that comes from within our heart, our happiness, our passion, our instinct. We're just not ready yet. We're just not ready yet. We're just not able to yet really access that drive and that energy to the full extent that it is that we need, and are still feeling a little stuck, right? Especially again with Mars being in Cancer, and Cancer being correlated to the crab, right? The crab moves side to side. It doesn't move head on, which I think is what the Aries really wants to do right now. That can be hard. In addition to that, it's making, again, this hard aspect, this square over here to Chiron in Aries. And Chiron can also indicate triggers and insecurities here, and just never quite being able to obtain or do the things that you want to do here as well. So this to me is another indicator here that we're getting passion, we're getting drive, we're getting motivation to start new things in our life, turn our life around, and to do it in a way that's truly aligned with our heart and our happiness and comes from a natural place of impulse and instinct here, but we just still feel unable to fully tap into it here and unable to really move forward at this time in the way that we might like, and are feeling stuck. And not only that, but are feeling very hurt and frustrated and triggered as well, maybe even vulnerable about the whole thing that's going on. Hey, not only that, but there can also create some frustration. Do I want to say anger? Yeah, I mean, I'll say anger here with the Aries that's going on. Maybe it's creating some anger. Or if not anger, it can create a lot of intense emotional expressions because it's in Cancer. You know, Cancer sometimes also has a weird way of expressing anger. So it might express them through other means, through passive aggressiveness or just sadness, but can also bring on a lot of weird emotional expressions here about at this time that can be uncomfortable. Okay, why? Maybe let me give you a thought. Why are we having difficulty acting? Because clearly more motivation and drive is there to do it. But why is it not fully able to get going? Well, I think part of that is because Mars is in Cancer, right? Cancer is about our emotions. And it's usually about our subconscious emotions that are underneath the surface, because Cancer is the lowest part of the chart here. So I think a big part of the reason of why we're getting motivation, we're getting drive, we're getting, more passion and excitement to start anew, but we're not fully able to do it and are feeling upset, angry, sad, frustrated, triggered about the whole thing, stuck, is because I think there's some emotions underneath the surface, perhaps in our subconscious, that maybe we still haven't fully resolved or healed or worked through, or figured out or gotten in the right place that we need. Not only that, but Cancer is also a water sign. I consider just the water signs to be more intuitive and more spiritual, more connected to the higher realms. So maybe there's also some sort of intuitive insight or spiritual insight that we also just don't have yet here about our situation as well. That's also making it difficult for us to move forward, right? Because it's hard to move forward if your feelings aren't in the right place, I do think your emotions are key to successful action, and it's hard to move forward if you're still lacking insight, especially higher insight about how to do that in an effective way here as well. That's hard. So I think that's kind of the first thing that I want to say here before I add on more aspects, is that at this new moon solar eclipse in Aries here, we are getting a very significant boost to start again in our lives, trying something new, doing something different, improving our lives with more courage and more passion, and to do it in a way that's more connected to our true heart, our passion, our instinct, our impulse, that comes more naturally instead of through obligation or hard work here. And that's wonderful. But even though that's wonderful, we're finding it really hard to fully tap into this passion and this excitement, and to actually do the things in this different way to move forward here at this time, and are feeling stuck, frustrated, angry, triggered, hurt, all of that. And the reason why I think we're finding it difficult to fully harness this passion and this motivation that's starting to build within us is because I think there's still a few more emotional things deep within ourselves, potentially from the past. Maybe I should note that still are unresolved, haven't fully been healed or worked through. And maybe there's still some spiritual insight or intuitive insight about our lives and how best to proceed that also we still don't have. That's making it hard to move forward without those things coming together. And that then leads me now, the next thing I want to take a look at here, which is going to be Mercury still retrograde in the sign of Aries, 0 degrees, as you can see it at the time of this new moon. I don't know if I would say that it's conjunct the new moon. It's a little far, I might think, but I think it's still relevant. And I think it's still relevant because it's at 0 degrees. So that's the reason why I want to mention it. Mercury retrograde here, 0 degrees Aries at the time of this eclipse. Okay, why is that significant? Well, planets that are either at the last degree of a sign, or in this case, the first degree of a sign, tend to be felt more strongly here, because they're kind of getting used to the energies of the sign. So I think this can have an impact. I also want to note, this to me also looks like a little bit more of a challenging impact it might have, because Mercury is retrograde here, and still, and eventually, and I think tomorrow it's going to leave this sign and onwards. So this to me is a little bit of a challenge. What is that? Well, Mercury is about our logical mind, right? Or our thoughts and ideas. And it's in Aries here about action and about doing things. And it's also in 0 degrees, the first degree of the first sign. So I think there's a lot of pressure here to act, to do things. Our logical mind wants to take action. Our thoughts want to take action. We want to move forward. We want to try again, to move into different and better experiences of our life, or to just do things differently, or to just be in more of a true an alignment and expression with our happiness and our heart and our joy here at this time. Okay, so this is putting extra pressure on ourselves to move forward. But even though this is putting extra pressure on ourselves to move forward, remember, it's still retrograde here. We're just not there yet. We're still not there yet, and still also not able to move forward. I think adding even more frustration than there already was with the Mars square Chiron here that's going on. Okay, why might this alignment in particular also be making us stuck, right? Be making us stuck and not able to move forward, to give more of the reason behind it. Why is this happening? Well, remember, Mercury is retrograde here. The retrogrades are a lot about different approaches to things, and re-evaluating our approach to things. And in Aries, it's about action, right? And with Mercury not finished with its retrograde period, I think we also still haven't gotten through our head logically the different approach that's needed in order for us to move forward in a different way, that's going on here at this time. We may still be stuck in old ways of doing things. What might those old ways of doing things be? Again, it might be old ways of doing things in which we are doing them out of obligation. We should do them. We have to do them. It's the responsible thing to do them, which, to be honest, to me comes a lot from Pluto and Capricorn, which has been there for which was there for many years of our life. And it's also a way in which we overthink everything, which is partially because of the Pluto in Aquarius, but also the South Node was in Libra as well, right? There may still be a part of us that's stuck in the old way of doing things here, of overthinking responsibility, that still doesn't want to see our heart and our happiness and our natural impulse and joy as being the correct thing to act on. And that still maybe feels a little guilty for that. Okay, not only that, but again, Mercury is going to retrograde back into Pisces shortly after this. And again, Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac as well, about the past and about old things too. So not only may this alignment be making it also difficult for us to really move forward in a new way, that's more instinctual, more happy, more in alignment with our passion on new things in life, here is not only because sure, there's some emotional stuff we need to heal with the Mars and Cancer, right? And some insight maybe we don't need, that maybe insight that we don't have yet, but also with the Mercury retrograde here in Aries, because we're still having trouble really accepting and adapting to a new way of behavior that is more easy and instinctual and based on our heart and less obligatory here and less responsible that's going on. And because again, maybe there's still some things from the past that are still weighing on us, especially emotionally too, that are also making it hard here again. Okay. And this can bring, again, I did say the anger, I did say, some frustration, but this can also bring a lot of anxiety and nervousness here too, because the Mercury energy can be kind of wild, especially again at the beginning degree of the sign, and a lot of impatience. This can even bring some impulsiveness, I think, also combined with the Mars, of acting out, wanting to act out to kind of do things before you're really ready, which may backfire. And I don't think will be effective if you do that here. So what that means to me, to repeat that before I add another layer. Okay. I have a lot of planets retrograde in my natal chart, including Mercury, and I've got Venus retrograde too. So I like to repeat a lot. This is the natural tendency that happens when you have a lot of planets retrograde. Okay. What I think is going on here is that we're getting a lot of, at this new moon solar eclipse in Aries, momentum, passion, and drive to move forward in our life into a new, different, and better experience in a new and different way than we have before, which is based more on happiness, joy, ease, instinct, and impulse instead of overthinking and obligation. And that's wonderful. But even though that's what's happening, we're finding it really difficult to actually do that, to actually take that step forward, to act in these new ways, and to move forward and do a whole bunch of other stuff we're excited about here. Which I think is because we still have some emotional issues that are unresolved from the past, maybe even some things from the past themselves that feel unresolved that are weighing heavy on our heart. Also because we are still having a hard time adapting to this new way of life that's easier and more instinctual, and still feel guilty about it here. And because we maybe don't have the full insight, spiritual insight and clarity about how exactly to move forward in what way, that's making us feel stuck and triggered and maybe even raw and insecure and really frustrated, maybe angry, or taking out our anger in weird ways, perhaps through passive aggressive ways that can make us feel very anxious and nervous and impatient and want to act out too soon before we're really in the right place emotionally and with the clarity that we need in order to do some of these things that we're starting to feel more excited about. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to mention, which are going to now start to be some of the better ones. Here, Venus. Venus at the time of this eclipse is back here, still retrograde, but it's back here in the sign of Pisces. Okay, that I want to talk about. And maybe I'll talk about the fact that it's conjunct the North Node here first. Let me do that. Okay, this to me is more of a positive thing. I want to consider this more of a positive thing, even though Venus is retrograde, because Venus is going to end its retrograde soon. And also too, because Venus is back in Pisces, it's sign of exaltation, or it functions way better there than anywhere else. I also want to consider this a good thing because it's near the North Node, and I just personally tend to like the North Node here, having to do about our purpose at this time in our lives. So I want to see this as more of a helpful thing here. What might that be? Well, Venus is a lot about ease. It's also a lot about receiving things or allowing, things to come to us here. And it's connecting with the North Node, which is a lot about our purpose and destiny at this time in our lives. And it's in Pisces. Pisces is also about rest and ease, right? Venus and Pisces have a resonance with each other since Venus is exalted there. Pisces is also about rest and ease. It's not only about that, it's also about healing emotionally and having more compassion and forgiveness for yourself, right? Because that helps in healing, and for others as well, because it helps with their healing too. Here. And it's also about taking the time to connect with spirituality, to connect with your intuition, to connect with a higher power. So this is us somewhere inside us starting to realize, okay, this forcing thing, not going to work. This forcing things isn't what I need to be doing. This impatience isn't what I need to be doing. This anger and this anxiety and this sadness isn't what I need to be doing, isn't going to help. What I need to be doing is giving myself, allowing, right, Venus, allowing myself a little bit more time to rest, to sleep, to be at ease, to heal my emotions, to work through some of those around the past here that's going on, and to connect more with spirit and intuition and a higher power in order to get that clarity that I'm missing here about what to do next and how to do it, and to get more of that complete motivation here that's going on. Okay. Here that's happening. Okay, which may happen naturally for some of you, for a good bit of you here. You may naturally start to realize that. Okay, so do you see how this is going with the eclipse here in Aries? Get a lot of motivation and drive to move forward, do things in a different way, more in alignment with our heart, but hard to fully tap into it because a lot of emotional things still haven't been healed. We still don't have the spiritual insight that we need. We're still trying to figure out this new approach to life that's meant to be easier, which is making us feel stuck, frustrated, angry, impatient, impulsive, anxious. All of that maybe act out in weird ways. But from this frustration and maybe from this acting out in weird ways and it backfiring, it's not going to work. We all of a sudden start to realize this isn't the way to go. Okay. Forcing, not the way to go. Driving myself crazy, not the way to go here. I need to rest and stop forcing and stop pushing things and give myself a little bit more time to heal some emotional wounds, make sense of the past, connect with spirit before moving forward on some of these things that I want to now. Okay. That then leads me now to the next alignment that I want to talk about. Venus conjunct Saturn. Yeah, let's do that. Venus is also in a conjunction with Saturn here in the sign of Pisces as well. What is this? This may not be the easiest thing either, I should note, but I think that I kind of want to like it here because sometimes Saturn can be constructive. Saturn can be a challenge in some ways because Saturn can restrict us from things. But even though Saturn can be a restrictive force, I think that it really does it for our highest good, right? For us to learn and to grow and to work through some stuff here. So in some ways this can be restricting, but in some ways this can be helpful. Excuse me. In what way can this be restricting? Well, both Venus and Saturn are in Pisces here, which again is about that rest, that ease, that healing, that forgiveness for ourselves, that connecting with spirit. And so there's something about that may feel restricting. Maybe we don't want to do it. Right? I'd rather be just doing stuff. I'd rather be doing new things. I'd rather be moving forward. And here I am stuck resting more, stuck trying to, heal some more stuff. It could feel really restricting here. There's a part of us that still may not want to quite do it or may still kind of like bristle against more rest and more ease, right? Especially if we got bills to pay with the Venus retrograde and people to get back to and things we need to do here that's going on as well. That can be challenging. Okay. But again, if we stick with it, right? Saturn rewards commitment. If we commit, and maybe this is part of the advice, I'll tie this in now. If we commit, if we make a conscious choice, Saturn, to rest and be at ease just a little bit longer. Really, it's not that much, not much longer here, just a little bit longer and heal and connect with spirit. It will pay off. Okay. So I think there's that component to add too. We're realizing pushing is not the way to go. We need to rest and be at ease, but it's not quite what we want to do. right now. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignment that I'll mention here, Venus, doing a lot. Not only making a conjunction with with the North Node and Saturn, but also on the other side, making a conjunction with Neptune as well. So maybe I'll erase here so you can see it. Venus making a conjunction with all these planets over here. Neptune next. Okay, what is that about? Now, this is also not my favorite thing because Neptune can be a little weird. It's at the last degree of a sign, but also something I think might be helpful because Neptune is the natural ruler of Pisces, which again is the sign that Venus is exalted in where it really likes. So I might give you a little bit of a mixed interpretation with this one as well. What is that? Well, maybe I'll start with Neptune. Sometimes can also bring on emotion, can also bring on sadness here. It can also bring confusion in a lot of ways as well. And I think the reason for that, especially seeing some of the other stuff in the chart, is because we're getting in touch with our emotions, right? When you rest and when you honor your, right, when you try to heal more emotions and when you try to connect with spirit, right, it's going to trigger more emotions. Do you understand? It's like hard to heal your emotions if you don't feel your feelings, the good ones and the bad ones here. So this can be a lot of feelings starting to come for us to be healed and to be worked through. Not only that, but the confusion perspective. Let's think about that for a minute. When you're trying to connect with spirit and when you're trying to connect with intuition, or when you're trying to just get a different perspective about your life, and a different way of doing things that you're not used to, it's confusing at first, because Spirit's ways aren't our ways, God's ways aren't our ways, or this new way of doing things isn't the way we're used to doing things. It does create a little bit of confusion there that's going on here that can feel a little scary, feel like we're at a loss or losing things or losing our sense of self. So there is some of that can be going on. This can also create a sense of exhaustion too, and overwhelm. But even though that can definitely be a manifestation that can occur, I want to think that it's meant to bring something better here. And I want to think it's meant to bring something better, like what? Well, Neptune can actually help you to connect with a higher power. It's a little confusing first, right? Because it's like, the angels think so differently than we do, but once you get past that confusion and you get on this different level, all of a sudden things become more clear. So this can actually bring breakthroughs. I think breakthroughs, a lot of spiritual clarity, a lot of spiritual insight that you didn't have before, especially around an eclipse, and especially because Neptune's going to leave Pisces and enter Aries tomorrow, which it hasn't done in a very long time after this. So it can bring a lot of spiritual breakthroughs. Not only that, but Neptune also washes away things, kind of washes the slate clean, especially at the last degree of the last sign. So not only can this alignment bring here massive, I think, is very significant breakthroughs about what to do next in your life and how to do it. But it can also help you too to release the past, release any attachments to the past, release an old way of doing things here, and to kind of let it go so that we're not so attached to the past or sad about the past, but so that we're done with it and it's fine. No hard feelings. We're moving on. It can help us move on here. And not only that, but Neptune can also actually bring the healing that's needed here, that can be very positive, so that when Neptune enters Aries tomorrow, after this eclipse, the day after this eclipse, we can feel better to what? Start again. Aries, the first sign that start again, be more motivated and do these other things here that's happening. So I think that's what I want to say here. And then I'll mention, I think, just a few quick alignments is that at this new moon solar eclipse in Aries, we're getting a lot of motivation and drive and courage and passion to do new things in our life, or try to fix old things from a new perspective here and in a new way, and to try to do these new things or fix this old stuff in a new way from a place of passion and excitement and impulse and instinct and heart instead of obligation or overthinking. And that's very good. But even though that's very good, we're still having difficulty actually doing those things that we're excited about and that we want to do and that we're motivated for. And that's because we still have a lot of emotional issues or things from the past that are still weighing on us emotionally, that are unresolved. We're still having a hard time getting what this new way of approaching it is, and are still feeling a little guilty and ashamed of trusting our impulse and instinct and following those and being happy here at this time, and still don't have that spiritual clarity that it is that we really need about what way is best to proceed, which is making us feel really frustrated and raw and vulnerable and stuck and sad and maybe even angry and impatient and nervous and maybe even impulsive, to make some of us act out too soon before we're ready to do some of these things in ways that won't work. And I think from that frustration, and maybe even from some of these actions that we're doing that may backfire, I think we're then going to naturally start to realize that that's not the way to handle this situation. It's not to force more things, that instead the way to handle this situation is to allow ourselves to rest a little bit more, and to get in touch with our spirit and with intuition a little bit more, and to work through and heal some of our emotions a little bit more here in order to heal and get the insight that we need. And that's not what we want to do. That's not what we want to do, is to be with our emotions and to rest and all of that. And not only is it not what we want to do, it might be a little confusing at first once we do it, and overwhelming and scary to sit with our emotions and to connect with a higher power. But if we commit to doing it, to the resting, the ease, the healing, the higher power a little bit longer, if we make a conscious choice to do it, it's going to bring significant breakthroughs. It's going to bring significant clarity. It's going to bring significant healing here that you need to finally let a lot of the past go that you've been holding on to, and heal from that, and to adopt a new way of life, and to get the clarity on how best to proceed, making new things manifesting in your life, and to move forward on it here, which I think can be very, very helpful. Okay, that then leads me now to the next alignments that I want to mention here, which are good ones. That's going to be this Venus stuff we were just talking about, the conjunct the North Node, Saturn and Neptune, make a trine over here to said Mars and Cancer that we started this horoscope talking about. And I see this as a good thing. I tend to interpret trines positively more often than not, because they're usually in between planets that are in the same elements. So I want to like it. What is this about? Well, this is a good thing. All the Pisces stuff is about our healing and about our releasing of the past, and about our connecting with spirit and getting the insights. And that's going to help us, Mars and Cancer. It's going to help us to start to feel a little better, right? Cancer is about to feel a little better, to feel more grounded. Cancer, about our foundations in life, to feel stronger emotionally, to feel more capable. To me, right? Cancer is where our inner source of strength is. It allows us to go out and be in the world and be successful. It's going to help us to feel stronger and more grounded and more capable here, and to work through some of that stuff, especially with Mars coming through this square to Chiron that we talked about direct. Now, are we all of a sudden, all at once, going to get the drive back to act? No, Mars really needs to get out of Cancer and into Leo, which I think is going to be around that full moon 2 weeks from now. So this is not all of a sudden we're going to get all the drive that we need to act out of nowhere. No, that's still another 2 weeks away. But this healing and these breakthroughs is going to finally give us an inner fortitude, an inner strength, an inner courage here that we need, and really going to help us nurture ourselves and feel stronger, so that 2 weeks from now we can take that action that we need. Okay. And then another alignment, I'll mention just these together really quickly, is that we've also got all the Pisces stuff here, sextile Uranus and Taurus as well, which I want to see in a helpful way, because it's a sextile, which I always interpret positively. As opportunities, and Uranus can indicate something sudden and unexpected. It feels more like an insight, I might say, or a feeling. And Taurus is a lot about stability and security, to feel more confidence here. Not only that, but Taurus could also be about money, or about your appearance, your body, your sense of self. So not only could this be an unexpected insight that helps you just feel more confident, it could also be unexpected insight, especially with all the breakthroughs that are happening here that really help a lot of you out with money, and your sense of self and your appearance and your body and all of that at this time. That I need to note, I think we'll just continue. Maybe on the last point, I think we'll just continue, because after all of this, Mercury is going to retrograde here into Pisces, and it's going to make a conjunction with the North Node and Saturn and Neptune and all of that. And to me, what that indicates is even more insights to come after this, especially with Mercury being about our logical mind or our conscious mind. I think that not only are we getting some significant breakthroughs at this new moon solar eclipse in Aries, but I think they're going to continue to come for at least another 2 weeks, I might say, week or two after this new moon, where you'll either continue to get new insights and clarity about how to move forward in your life, or if you don't get new insights and clarity, the insights and clarity you're getting now will start to make more sense in a lot of ways, or you'll become more consciously aware of. So I think it will continue over time there with that and be helpful. Hey, and that's it. I think that's all I'm going to say here in terms of the aspects. Because it's it, I'm just going to repeat that one last time now without the jargon. So let me do that now. What I think is going on here at this new moon solar eclipse in Aries is that we're starting to get a lot of motivation, drive, passion to do new things in our life or try old things in a new way here, and in a new way that's more in touch with our heart, our passion, our impulses, and our instinct, and less obligation, responsibility, and overthinking. And that is wonderful. But even though that is wonderful, here we're still having a hard time fully doing that, fully doing these new things and in these new ways and moving forward, because we have a lot of emotional stuff that's still unresolved from the past or still hasn't been healed and worked through, because we're still having a hard time accepting this new approach to life and feel guilty and ashamed about things being easier here. And also because of what was it? Some things from the past. Quiet arrow, quiet please. Quiet please. Yeah, just having some problems, kind of working through some of our emotions and feeling stronger. And that's making us feel very stuck and frustrated and upset, maybe even angry, nervous, anxious, impatient, and may even act out suddenly and unexpectedly to try to fix this, to try to not be in this situation that we're in. And those actions look like they're going to backfire and not work. And from this frustration and these things not working, I think we're then going to realize that we need to stop trying to do more of these things because we're not ready. And instead we need to rest a little bit more and heal a little bit more and connect with spirit and our intuition a little bit more. And that may be not what we want to do, a little hard at first, a little confusing and overwhelming at first, but is eventually going to lead to very significant breakthroughs here about this new approach, about how exactly to move forward in what way. And that's going to help us heal and release the past and feel stronger, more rejuvenated, more courageous and more confident, help us maybe with finances. And otherwise, that's very good. And these insights will continue to come, I think, over the course of the next few weeks, or we'll continue to become more conscious of them as more time goes on, which I think will be very, very helpful for us. And eventually, I think at the next full moon that we'll have in Libra, eventually 2 weeks from now, help us to finally actually take the action here that we want to take now with the right perspective and our emotions and heart in the right place. Okay, and that's it. Because it's in, I now just like to add a few other thoughts to help make sense of the energy to you here. And I think the thought that comes to mind to me right now is a little bit of a metaphor here. Yeah, do I want to give you a metaphor now? Sure. You know how when you're, let's say this, you know how sometimes when you're sick, here's a metaphor, when you're sick, you're just unwell, you're not feeling that good. And then all of a sudden you go to sleep, and you end up sleeping like all day. Cause let's say you're really sick. So you end up sleeping for like 24 hours straight, because you weren't well. And then after that 24 hours straight, you wake up and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel pretty good. Like I slept all 24 hours. And then you start doing things because you're feeling good. And then the more you start to do things, you realize, oh shoot, I am getting better. But I'm actually not 100% yet. I'm not 100% healed yet. I'm still feeling unwell because you're trying to do things and you're getting a headache again and you're getting this and you're realizing, okay, I think I need to rest a little bit longer before I go back to my normal routine to heal. Well, I think that's, to me, explains the energy of what's happening now and two, what's been happening the past few months. or weeks, maybe it's more weeks than months, because over the course of the past few weeks, if you've been listening to my horoscopes, we've talked a lot about resting and taking it easy, right? And I think what's going on at this new moon solar eclipse in Aries is we're kind of waking up from that rest and ease and being like, okay, I want to try again. I want to try again to move forward in my life, to do things, and it's still not working. And us needing to go back to sleep, rest and ease some more, heal some more, go inwards a little bit more for the whole thing to finish, here that's going on. So that's where I want to note here, because some of you at this new moon solar eclipse in Aries may want to cut it short, may want to say, okay, done sleeping, done resting, done surrendering. Now I got to get back to the grind, back to work, back to all this other stuff. And it's like, no, not ready yet. And getting back to the grind was never the point. We weren't resting and sleeping anyways the past few weeks. So you can get back to the grind, doing a whole bunch of stuff. No, you were resting and sleeping so that you could do something different when you woke up. That wasn't nearly as stressful anyways. So I hope that that's becoming clear on how it connects. We've been taking it easy, especially for the past 2 months since that new moon in Aquarius. Now's not the time to start doing a whole bunch of stuff yet. We're still not fully rested, or healed yet. We need to sleep and rest a little bit longer till we're back at 100% and not 70% here, in order for us to kind of move on at this time. Okay, why is that important? For us to be more well rested, or to be at 100% instead of 70% here? Well, I think that's part of the old life, and in my horoscopes, we've been talking, especially since 2020, about trying to change our life to move into a new, different, and better experience, right? Well, I think part of the old life, which to me correlates a lot to Pluto and Capricorn, because Capricorn was there during most of it, and that's where the Pluto-Saturn conjunction was in 2020, okay? The old life, I think, was really about us acting on 70%. I'm not really feeling into it. I'm not really feeling into doing this thing. I'm not really feeling up to it, but I guess I should do it. I guess it needs to be done. I guess I have to do it. My heart isn't really into it, all of that. Or I guess I need to do something. I'm kind of tired. I don't really have the energy, but I need to make it happen, right? Because the Capricorn's all about profits and appearing to be successful and all of this other stuff. So I think that was what we were doing. And I think that was part of the thing that wasn't working. That was part of what created a life we didn't like, because we were only working and making things happen on half of our energy, or less than our full energy, towards things we didn't really even care about. So us resting and being at ease is going to help us kind of break these cycles of the past and step into kind of a new paradigm, or a new life in the more complete way it's actually meant to be done, right? Because the new life experience is not about you running on half a tank. The new experience in life is not about you just doing a lot of stuff because you're tired doing a lot of stuff, even if you're tired all the time. No, the new experience of life is like you doing stuff because you want to do it, because you're energized to it, because it's fun for you, not because you have to, not because you need to get it done, but because you are fully present and fully ready and fully rested here in order to move forward. Okay. Right. And that's also a thing that's going to make life better. Not only is that part of what the new life is about, right? But that's going to make life better. It's not fun doing things you don't want to do. It's not fun doing things you don't have energy for. We have to get more with it. So I think that's also part of the point here of why this rest is necessary, and this ease is to help us, get rid of a lot of these old habits from the past and step into new habits that are going to help us kind of move forward and be better for us, Here that's going on, and to kind of move forward in this different way, right? Because that's what we're learning. I hope this is clear. We're learning to take action from a place of a natural place of ease and instinct, not force. Not I have to act. I have to do this because there's going to be consequences. Because this is what I should do. No, we're learning to act from a place easy, natural. It just comes out of you naturally. You don't act and then worry and then get stressed and then worry how to. You get an idea to act, and it's just easy and natural. It all flows. It all comes together here. That's what's going on, and we can't cut that process short. Here that's going on, because acting before it's natural to act is like counterintuitive. So I just hope that a lot of that's becoming more clear here too. Not only is that part of the point of the energy is like we need to have a new way of behaving as well, because that's what got us into this mess in the first place, is doing things we didn't want to do on half a tank here. But the resting as well, the resting and ease is also going to serve to be healing to help us finally release some of our attachments to the past and some things that have been hard for us emotionally, and kind of move on from there. And it's going to help a lot of things finally gel. A lot of things in our life that may have been confusing or hard from the past few years finally start to really make sense here as well. So I think that's what I want to say. All right, maybe I'll give you a few examples of how this might play out. Maybe this is a job thing for some of you all. Maybe some of you have been looking for a new job for a while and you just haven't found one. And so a few weeks ago, you decided you'll just lay off the job search or whatever. And what could happen at this new moon solar eclipse in Aries is you may want to try looking for jobs again before you've really change your perspective on what jobs you need to look for, because maybe you need to look for very different jobs here. And so you'll try again to look for jobs and you may still not be right. There may be something about your approach that's not right. And you need to wait a little bit longer to look for jobs until you've got a better perspective, right? Because you may need to look for totally different jobs altogether or totally change your approach to how you're looking. Right? Maybe this is another way. Maybe some of you literally have jobs. You have jobs and maybe and you're fine with them. You don't want to leave them. And maybe the past few weeks you've been like, okay, I need to take some time off work or just scale back my work because it's too much. Well, what could happen now at this new moon solar eclipse in Aries with all these planets retrograde is you can be like, all right, time to get back out there. I rested for 2 weeks. Time to get it back out there with my work and work hard again and do more. And it's like, no. You need a little bit more time to rest, and you need a little bit more time to be at ease. You need a little more time to connect with spirit about your job situation, because the whole point is not for you to go back out there and work again, just like you were doing 2 weeks ago. The whole idea is for you to do your job fundamentally differently than you're currently doing it, which is going to be easier and more instinctual and less stressful. Okay. So there's some of that could be going on. Right? Or maybe some of you left your jobs altogether, right? You don't plan on going back, and maybe you're trying to start up passion projects or things like that. So some of you may have recently left your job and have rested, right? Since you left your job or whatever. And then now be like, all right, now I need to do something. I no longer have a job. I can't just sit around the house all day. I need to get my business going, or I need to do this. And it's just like, and may feel guilty and ashamed that now you're not doing anything. And it's just like, you need to chill a little bit longer here before taking these big actions, so that you can rest, adjust to this different place without your job and without what's going on here, and get a better perspective about how to proceed, which may not be your natural inclination on how to do that. Okay. Maybe this is a home thing. Maybe some of you have been looking for a new home or whatever, and maybe the past few weeks or two, it just hasn't been coming together. So you decided that you will stop looking for a home for a bit. Well, what could happen at this solar eclipse in Aries is that you may start looking again, but then still not look at the right places for you, or still not be able to find it, or something just not be right there about it. And you need to just chill a little bit longer when it comes to looking for homes, because spirit may want you to look in a totally different area, in a totally different place, in a totally different way that you need to be open to receiving here, that maybe you don't have this insight you don't have it yet. Okay. Maybe this is a relationship thing. Maybe some of you have a relationship situation going on, and maybe the past few weeks you decided that maybe you'll just take a break, or you'll just call it quits, or just back off a little bit here of that relationship. And so maybe what could happen is that some of you now could be like, okay, we took a break 2 weeks, now let's get back at it and like get back together, whatever it is that's going on. And this eclipse is kind of like, no, you need a little more time to let things cool, or to chill, or whatever, here to kind of heal and all of that, before you move forward, because you may get from that time a totally different insight about the relationship and how it needs to proceed than you had before. here as well. So those are some examples there, although there's obviously so many more ways it could play out there. But the main theme, right, is like we're still not ready yet to move forward in the way that we might like, because we still need more time to rest, to heal, to release the past, and to get insights from spirit about how to proceed. Because the way we think we need to proceed now may not be the way spirit wants us to proceed. That's going to help us with our situation. Okay, and I think that's what I'm going to say there. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look at your inside degrees. Okay, let's look at those. The inside degrees were not written by me. They were written by someone else, Elias Lonsdale, who channeled the meanings of each of the degrees from spirit. But I just like to look at them for insight. I think the one that I like the best is 9, which is the degree itself of the solar eclipse in Aries. So I think I'm just going to read that one, although you clearly can pause the screen and look at 8 or 10 as well. But I'm going to start with 9. It says, superior to the world, experienced and sophisticated, seeing in the future what you've seen in the past, at the next point in this spiral, bored and worldly wise, unchallenged by the pace and the wits of others, you are disdainful and haughty. So I think what this means to me is that there's just a lot of, what's the word? About the past. There's a lot of like feeling burnt about the past. I think that's what I get from this degree, is that a lot of us feel just like burnt from the jaded. That's the word, jaded by the past, and by what's happened to us, and just feeling like it's going to happen again. And we know how things go, right? Which can make us, right? The bored, that stands out to me, maybe even the disdainful and the haughty. I think there's a part of us that's very jaded with the past and what's happened and by life, that I think is part of what needs to be healed, right? And part of what's holding us back. Let's read on. It says, yet in the center of all this lies as fresh a perception and way of being as the outward husk has grown decadent, bearing inside new worlds, trumpeting outside your disengagement from old worlds. You walk an edge sharp and dangerous between your impatient dismissal of the past and all worlds linked with the past, and a hunger and yearning for a different world altogether that burns and aches and will not go away. So on one hand, this degree talks about us kind of, being stuck in the past and just jaded by the past and think life's always going to be that way now and in the future, and hurt and bored and like upset about that. But then there's another side of ourselves that is done with that, wants to break free from that and wants to move on, right? Bearing inside new worlds, okay, that we're teetering on the edge between. Like it says, it's dangerous, sharp and dangerous. You walk an edge sharp and dangerous, okay? Sharp and that's dangerous to be in these two extremes or in these two places. And it can make us impatient, right, as we get in between. And I do think there's some of that. Remember, we did talk about that, okay? It says, let's read on. Along that razor's edge lies destiny, half volatile and half triumphant. These two sides war and collide in a rivalry for who will decide the outcome, okay? Another thought I'll say while we're on this, I did mention in one of my last videos something about war being a potential. I still believe that. It's always been that way in the astrology for this time, with all the stuff in Aries here that's going on. Aries, even though I used words to describe it like action and new beginnings, the ancient astrologers also considered Aries to be the sign of war. If not war, military action, right? Correlates to war, although can be different, but are kind of similar. Also, Aries can correlate to protests, arguments. It's coming, significantly. In a big way here. It is coming because two sides. Do you see? It's like there's two opposing sides. There's a part of us that's stuck in the past, a part of us that wants to move forward. A house divided cannot stand. And I think that applies to the collective. There's part of the collective stuck in the old way. The Pluto and Capricorn got to do things traditionally. There's a part that wants to grow and move on into the new way. There's a reckoning here that's going to come. So I don't know if it's quite now, because remember, there's something about like waiting, but I think the full moon in Libra 2 weeks from now, it feels significant. Okay. But just here that word comes up. So I wanted to mention that here, when which is playing out on a personal level, but can also play out on a collective level. There's a part of us that is ready to move on into new things, but there's a part of us that's very hurt and jaded by the past. And he has a bad attitude because of the past that we need, that's hard. It's a hard line to walk that we're going to have to, very volatile, that one's going to have to win out. And hopefully it's the new way and not the jaded way. Okay. All right, and then we have Aries 10. Maybe I'll read that really quickly as well. It says, bondage and freedom sometimes go hand in hand. The bondage is being true to pattern, predictable, caught in habits and tendencies, perpetually left to grow like weeds. The freedom is that you meet yourself starkly in the midst of these old, tired patterns of behavior. You come into touch with a quickening flame of self-recreation, stimulated and forced by being at the mercy of the relentless patterns. This impulse to make yourself over is fervently strong, courageous, ready, and willing. So what this means to me is that eventually we're going to break free from these old patterns and from the jadedness here, and to recreate ourselves in a new way and a new image, to make ourselves over, to do things differently. Okay. Let's read on. The old stuff dies hard. You are therefore engaged in a pitched battle of a protracted kind between retrogressive and progressive ideals, impulses, and desires. Both sides are so impassioned and sharply intent that this becomes a knockdown, drag-out battle of wills. See, another kind of war thing. The atavistic, backward-leaning will feels immune to change. The visionary, forward-thrusting will feels moved by evolutionary forces, never to give up. Eventually, the future prevails over the past, but not before scars and multiple traumas mark the spot of fighting for your life against an enemy who knows it will lose and fights all the harder accordingly. Okay, so this inside degree means that the new life is going to win, which I knew all along was going to happen here, because that's how evolution works, but can be a little bit difficult there as well. And I think this jives with what I've said in some of my previous videos here as well. Okay. Now, maybe another thought, if there is going to be some sort of like war or military action or protests or fights or things like that, again, they don't look like they're going to fully start until maybe more so. I mean, there's already kind of things going on collectively, but the full moon in Libra 2 weeks from now seems more significant once more of these planets are direct and onwards. How long might these conflicts last? To be honest with you, I don't really know, but what I do know is that there's 2 significant time frames that are coming up after this point. July of this year is very significant. July of 2025 I tend to think positive for something positive happening. Not only that, but the next significant time is December of 2027 and January of 2028 for something as well that I think will be positive. And what those are is July of this year, Jupiter is going to move into Cancer. It's actually going to move into Cancer at the end of June, but we'll give it some time here. And that's a very positive thing because Jupiter is exalted in Cancer, only happens once every 12 years. It's a sign of exaltation. And of course, we're going to have a bunch of planets in different signs, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, all of that. Not only that, but in December of 2027 and January of 2028, Pluto is going to conjunct the North Node in Aquarius, which is also a big deal. It doesn't happen too terribly often. It does happen maybe about like every 18 years or so, but it's not like super rare. But that to me is also a pretty big deal. Those are the 2 dates in the near future that I'm focused on the most as being very significant here. So my thoughts on that now from a collective perspective is that if there is some sort of conflict going on, it can either resolve itself in July, maybe it'll be a quick one, or if not July, it will resolve itself the very beginning of 2028. Here that's going on at this time. And if it resolves itself in 2028, then the good thing that's happening in July of this year is the new getting more of a foundation, the new getting itself together, the new taking form, taking shape about what exactly it is, which is beautiful. And 2028 is then going to be when things might end, right? The things might be won, you might say, here that's going on, okay? And the way that things are going to turn out, I will say 2028 with the Pluto conjunct the North Node in Aquarius is the people, right? Aquarius is about the people winning, the people having a voice, not about, I don't know which words I want to use here for people, the YouTube algorithm, not about controlling governments taking power. It's about the people taking the power back, revolutions, things like that. So that's who's going to win. Not only that, but Aquarius as well is about innovation, and it's about all people, even if they're different and unique. So people of all sexual orientations, all genders, all colors, loving each other, supporting each other, believing in each other, not certain groups being deported or excluded from certain things. So let's all keep that in mind. That's where the new is. Even though these old habits are going to fight for their life, even though they know they will lose and fight a lot harder. So keep that in mind here. I'm pretty sure about that, because the Aquarius, very unique, open-minded, non-traditional. That's where we're going, whether we want to admit it or not, here at this time. Okay. But yeah, that's where we are. Okay. Now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to pull a card. Okay. To help summarize, let's see, we've got the Seven of Swords upright here, and at the bottom of the deck, we've got the Queen of Cups reversed. Here, the Seven of Swords is interesting because it is usually a card of like hiding. You know, this is kind of interesting. I feel like this describes the energy as it should here, but we've got the person in this card holding like a bow and arrow, wanting to take action with it, but then like hiding behind a tree, like he's waiting until the time is right, kind of. And so I think that that's what I'm feeling. It's like we want to take action, but the time is just not right yet. You know, we still need to get a few more things in order. You know, maybe he's waiting for the right angle, the right shot, you know, if you can kind of see it here. Maybe he's waiting for the right angle, the right shot, the right time, the right thing to come walking by, you know, the right insight about what to do. So I think that's part of it. That's what I'm feeling here, especially from looking at this image. Still not quite ready here. We still need to kind of wait. And this is also him kind of hiding in private, spending some time in private to kind of work through some things. And we've got the Queen of Cups reversed at the bottom of the deck, which to me is about our emotions and really needing to nurture those, right? It's a queen, go inward to kind of nurture those as well and to find our inner rhythm and our inner peace. Like she's kind of like dancing, you know. So I think those are my thoughts. We want to act. We're not ready yet. We kind of need to hold off on acting, to go inwards, to deal with private and personal matters or our own feelings and to work those out and to tap into our happy feelings or our feelings of joy and passion and peace here, so that when we do act, it comes from, you know, a better place or a place of joy and of happiness instead of a place of sadness or dejection or things of that sort. And that's what I have to say. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful. If you like this video, please like it on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, share it with your friends, and I will talk to you 2 weeks from now at that full moon in the sign of Libra.